I think the companies that have digital properties, right? It's not so much the Bessemer process for creating steel. It's not a static, know-how. The AI figures out how to do things statically pretty well. What it doesn't do is it doesn't figure out, how do I extract real-time proprietary data feeds? And so I think that the value of data, which all of our customers have, the value of proprietary data, is going to explode. And you got to think about, can I license my data to someone else so that they can plug it into an AI so they can change their product?
Michael Saylor paints a vivid picture of the future, where traditional economics, once built on land, labor, and capital, has given way to a new digital frontier. In this brave new world, the three components that create prosperity have evolved. Instead of land, we have digital property. Think intellectual property, clean data, and proprietary databases. Instead of physical labor, we're witnessing the rise of digital labor, with AI bots and robots working at speeds and efficiencies that humans simply can't match. And as for capital, Bitcoin has emerged as the digital capital of the future. Saylor envisions a time when the economy will require less physical property and labor. Robots won't need office buildings or lunch breaks, and AI won't need sprawling warehouses of data to function. It needs clean data. The companies that control this data, the digital property, will hold the keys to future prosperity. Just as Tokyo real estate differs from New York's, digital property comes in countless forms, each valuable in its own right. The challenge now is how companies can harness and license their data, feeding AI to drive smarter products and services. But the game doesn't stop with data. Saylor introduces digital capital, with Bitcoin standing at the core. Unlike the fluctuating world of traditional assets, Bitcoin is homogeneous. A Bitcoin is always a Bitcoin. As the digital economy evolves, the demand for Bitcoin will surge, becoming the go-to store of value for businesses, AI, and individuals looking to preserve capital in an increasingly digital world. The future, Saylor argues, holds explosive growth. As digital intelligence and digital labor converge with digital property, the result will be a 100x increase in productivity across every sector. The real question is, as this massive wave of productivity hits, where will businesses, individuals, and capitalists store their wealth? The answer is clear: Bitcoin. It's the most scarce, liquid, and fungible asset perfectly positioned to thrive in this digital age. In short, Saylor warns, the digital revolution isn't coming, it's already here. The winners of tomorrow will be those who embrace digital capital today. Let's get more insights from Michael Saylor, but before we dive back in, do us a quick favor. If you're enjoying the content, give the video a like, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for daily updates on Bitcoin and the crypto market. Thanks for your support, and now, enjoy the video.
And I think digital capital is, which is Bitcoin, is very important. When you come away from these things, you think, if I plug digital intelligence and digital labor into digital property, by the way, property is heterogeneous. There's 10,000 proprietary databases, just like real world property is heterogeneous. Tokyo real estate is different than New York. So digital property is a whole set of thousands of heterogeneous but very valuable things in the world. The digital labor and the digital intelligence, less heterogeneous. There are going to be some monster models and everybody's going to use them. Digital capital, Bitcoin, homogeneous. A Bitcoin is a Bitcoin, and what you're going to see is companies are going to create extraordinary products, extraordinary services. There's going to be a 100x increase in productivity. There's going to be a 100x increase in everything. We're going to produce more of everything in every way that everybody can imagine. And if you're a corporation, if you're a private actor, if you're a capitalist, what are you going to do with that capital? You're going to roll it into Bitcoin. The AIs are going to want to buy the Bitcoin. The companies are going to buy the Bitcoin. The demand is going to be for the most scarce, desirable, liquid, fungible capital asset. And so the explosion of productivity with digital property and digital intelligence and digital labor will create an explosion in demand for digital capital. And I think all of those are just mutually beneficial trends. And if you're a company, you just want to figure out how your shareholders benefit, how your customers benefit, how your employees benefit from this trend.
One of the lesser known things that have happened over the last 5 years with strategy is how we've used AI, and Gen AI specifically, to come up with our strategy. And I sometimes tell people that you're one of the biggest power users of Gen AI, and that our digital transformation, our capital transformation was AI driven. And people are a little surprised to hear that. Share with the group exactly the story of how you used AI and how the companies used it to transform our capital structure.
You know, when the first chat programs came out, they were cute, and then they started getting smart. And when the first image generators came out, they were cute, and then they started getting smart, and then they started getting better. And I was drawn into the world because I wanted to be able to communicate messages. So first we would generate images, and eventually I found that computer-generated portraits of myself are actually better looking than I am.
No.
But humble brag. No. Actually, the more important point is, if you wanted to make a point, it was a lot easier to put myself on Mount Everest with a computer-generated image than doing it in the real world. And so we started to generate content much more rapidly. Then I realized I could use AI as an editor, and it became my editor. And you know, you want to make a sophisticated point, but you're in a hurry, and people say, "Do you run your own X account?" Yeah, I run my own X account. I create my own post, and it's like, well, aren't you worried about misspelling or mistyping, or like, is that the right way to use the hyphen? And I found, well, it'd be great if I had an intelligent editor, and I started using it as an editor. Then I realized, my job is to have an opinion on, does this bill influence Bitcoin and how? So when they drop a 200-page bill, I realized if I could put that into AI, summarize it, query it, and compare it, I could think 100 times faster, maybe 1,000 times faster. And I began using AI to accelerate my ability to think. Now, that's pretty important if there's 100 bills and someone wants to know, what about this, what about that, what do you think about that document? And I can't afford to have we've had 40 people in the marketing department or working for me, and if I ask the question, I might wait a few days or a week to get the answer. But I don't have a week or a few days. I have sometimes 2 minutes. If you want to be relevant, sometimes if Elon Musk posts something, you have 60 seconds. The world requires that you be smarter, faster, stronger. So I started using it in that way, and then not a long time ago came along deep research, and that was a big aha moment, because first I used an order of magnitude more computing power, and then I used 2 orders of magnitude more computing power. And then I started asking questions via deep research. Well, how would you design this security, or is this possible? I have a question which would require 5 lawyers and 3 financiers to answer, and it would take them 2 weeks to answer. And I would put this chat in deep research mode, and I would grind it, and it would grind through 50 sources and work for 15 minutes and come back. And it doesn't necessarily give me the answer that I can immediately act on, but it gives me somewhere between 80 and 95% of what I need. And then I take that to the finance department. I take that to the legal department. So a lot of our innovative capital markets activity, things like Strife, things like Strike, we had to fight through all sorts of complicated legal issues, complicated financial issues. You know, we did a convertible preferred stock. It had never been done before. We listed it on NASDAQ. It had never been done before. We attached a shelf registration to it. It had never been done before. We made it a perpetual dividend, good for 1,000 years. It had never been done before. We created a perpetual call option. It had never been done before. We put a shelf registration on it. Never been done before. Now, when you go to 25 professionals with 30 years experience, say, I want to do 20 things that have never been done before, and I want to do them in a hurry. I need an answer in the next 48 hours. Right? That creates a very stressful situation. And what I found with AI is the AI doesn't have a lot of ego. I can ask it a question. I can tell it that's not right. I can tell it that's stupid. I can disagree. I can work through my issues. And then after I've gone through 20 iterations, which would have ground human beings into a pulp, you know, I can then take the 95% answer to the finance team and the legal team and the bankers and the market and say, I think this is plausible. And I don't just share the result, I share the link. I say, go into the chat, you know. I've uploaded 27 documents. I've actually had to grind through case law of every public company that's ever done this before. I've analyzed the finance. I think it's more likely than not this will work. And at that point, when you've taken the process to 95%, you can then get to a result and build consensus. And half of AI is about consensus and doing it in a cheerful, constructive way, right? When I'm yelling, I prefer to yell at the AI, right? I really want to do this. No, you can't. Well, what if I do this? No, well, and eventually you get to a point where maybe you can move forward. And I can say, you know, with a high degree of confidence, right? A lot of the things we've done in the capital markets, we just couldn't have done that. Those two preferred stocks, Strife and Strife, are the first AI-designed securities that I know of, certainly in our industry. So I've been inspired by it, and I think we're just scratching the surface. That, you know, the next step will be to go from deep research, which is where, by the way, I went from the $20 a month, you get a few of these things, to the $200 a month subscription where you get unlimited, to the we're cutting you off because even unlimited, we think you're burning our silicon. You know, I think we're going to go from deep research to agents where I just say, hey, you work for me, scan everything in the Twitter sphere today about knowing what I think, and tell me what I should say, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do it. And then scan the capital markets. I tend to ask questions like, look at every single publicly traded company and give me the open interest divided by their market cap and the liquidity and the trend of the liquidity, and then tell me where we stand. Click. Okay. Yeah, and the next step will be, well, why don't you just do that every day? And then, you know, so what I think I've learned is we're going to consume exponentially more silicon and exponentially more electricity and digital power because that's the way you break through to the new idea and the new market. And you just can't go the 20th century way. You can't even do things the way we did it 3-4 years ago. In the words of Magnus Carlsen, it's too weak, it's too slow. You have to be faster and stronger and smarter.
That's a wrap on today's journey into the digital frontier. We hope you found value in exploring how digital property, labor, and capital are reshaping our world. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this digital transformation? Drop a comment below. We're eager to read your insights. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and share it with someone who would benefit from this knowledge. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more insights into the evolving landscape of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.